Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. I always like these interviews and these on-air conversations when we have our friends who have come back a second and even sometimes a third time. It's 3 for you, Rob, or 4?
3.
3, yes. Well, welcome back to the studio. We are very excited today to work with the crew with AZ Next Workforce Development Partnership, talking about all things partnership. So let me first start by introducing our featured guest. We have Laura Hemingway, who is the founder and principal of Paradigm Solutions, LLC. Welcome back as well.
Well, thank you, Karen, for having all of us. And I want to thank you, too, for all you give back to the community in this show. It's just, it's such a treasure of information. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you back. It's been, I think you said over a year. Does that sound right?
It's been a little over a year, yes.
Well, good.
I'm
excited. I'm thrilled that we're still having a conversation around workforce development and how you are supporting people in that growth, and looking forward to hearing more about what's going on for you lately. I already just kind of gave a quick shout out to Rob Below, who's the program director at AZ Next Workforce Development Partnership. And was it AZ Tech Council we just had you on, or?
Yeah, it was just 2 weeks ago at AZ Tech Council. I was looking for my name on the covered parking spot. So.
Right. And on the back of your chair here in the studio,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
I think you got to be here more frequently than that. Let's see if we can make that
work
happen.
On that.
That's right. So we did, so Steve Zylstra and I co-host that show together. It's AZ Tech Council's AZ Tech Cast. And I already knew Laura had invited you to come and join us for this conversation. So I'm glad you were able to make room to help us continue to get the word out about the great work you're doing with AZ Next Workforce.
Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes. And I don't know who thought to bring this wonderful lady over here to my right, but Paloma Greenwald is first time in the studio with us.
Correct.
And Paloma, you are an AZ Next participant. Do we call you a recipient, a participant? What's the right phrase? Lucky gal?
Indeed. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the beneficiary.
Very good. I don't want to put you on the spot,
No,
but
it's
I'd
fine.
love for you to tell us what you're doing and why the AZ Next has been so important to you. And then we'll kind of back up the train a little bit and let these two share a little bit about why they're here and their role in working with you.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'll go back in time, maybe just about 18 months. And I found myself in something of a vulnerable transition stage. My husband, after his 32-year career, which I had spent about 27 of them with him, he retired. It was a natural progression. He had achieved his goals, and he made the decision that we needed to prioritize my dad, who was on hospice care here in town, as well as my senior in high school. And we wanted the stability at that moment that we hadn't had as a standard for many, many years. So he chose to retire, and I found myself stumped. Who am I? What's my purpose? What am I going to support? Because the military gave us that purpose, and we were very proud of it. We were happy to engage in that. And the local installation initiatives that I was involved with still mattered. That didn't change overnight. And so I threw my name out there. There's an organization in the state with a great reputation called the Coalition of Military Families, the Arizona Coalition. And I think they've got billboards all over town that say, be connected. And they've got resources, by probably the hundreds. And I submitted my name as interested in receiving some of their benefits. And probably within a month, AZ Next contacted me with the opportunity for a free educational program that I absolutely jumped on.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And so what are you studying?
So this was about a 4 or 5 month long program for business analysts.
Okay. So good. So we kind of just jumped right in the middle of the lake with that. Thank you for doing that. Now, for our curious listeners, let's back up a little bit. And Rob, would you start by sharing with us what your role is, of course, as director, and then where you're housed and the partnership? You're so good about giving us the flyover. Share that with us, if you would, please.
Sure. AZ Next is the Arizona Workforce Development Partnership at ASU. And we are a U.S. Department of Labor grant-funded program. And our goal is to create the sustainable workforce training infrastructure for all of the high-tech jobs that are coming to the state and the region, and in fact, the whole country. So we focus on the areas of IT, cybersecurity, and advanced manufacturing. And the way it works is basically we go out to our industry partners and ask them, what sort of skills are you looking for in your workforce? We then use the fantastic resources we have at ASU to put together training programs like our Introduction to Business Analysis course that Paloma went through, and recruit folks to go through the programs, help them finish them out, get them certified if we can, and then hopefully get them, into a good paying position somewhere. That's really what we want to try to do. We're not a training program. We're a jobs program.
And is there a cost involved?
Absolutely no cost to our participants at all.
I knew the answer to that question because you were here 2 weeks ago and even before that. And I'm blown away. It's so exciting. Yeah. And what a great example that you've been willing to share with us. So thank you for joining us today. Laura, where do you fit in?
Where I fit in is I was introduced to the AZ Next program at a organization dinner that I belong to, where the dean, associate dean, and executive leaders at ASU presented the AZ Next program to the organization. I'll go ahead and give it a plug: SIMS, Society for Information Management. And I immediately jumped on the bandwagon there, wanting to be involved because I just found the applicability of the courses to be so widespread. So I was immediately volunteered, and I am a guest lecturer for the business analyst cohort. I believe we're headed into our fourth one.
Yes,
here.
we are.
And so back in June, I'll be speaking with the candidates again. And my main focus is on the soft skills, the toolkit, and how to really capitalize on that in your role as a business analyst, because you are the change agent. You are changing the organization. People are looking at you as either the angel or the devil, depends on their point of view, and you need to have those soft skills to be successful. But we will get into that a little bit later. Paloma was in the very first cohort, and she reached out to me afterwards, and we have been in contact since then. I guess you would say in kind of a mentor.
Oh, absolutely.
mentee kind of
Yeah, can I say
relationship.
that?
I'm pretty humble when it comes to those kinds
Yes,
of
you are.
things. And so we've been in contact ever since, and I felt that she was just a great example of the diversity of the types of students that AZ NEC represents, and just her skill set and knowledge, and how she was able to apply this to her initiatives that she's working on now. So hence the invitation to Paloma.
That's perfect. Thank you for thinking to that.
And Karen, if I could just add, I
course.
just wanted to say that Laura is actually one of the most popular of our guest speakers in any of our courses. The reviews that we always get after her sessions are out of the ballpark.
I love that. Do you think it's the topic, or do you think it's Laura?
I think it's Laura.
I do too. And it's a great, of all topics, that'd probably be the area that I would be focusing on too. And it's so critical that we bring that into any type of work related conversations. How do we show up in the world and navigate all the things that come at us, right? So thank you for that shout out for Laura. That's important. Paloma, talk a little bit about the skills that you learned from the technology based courses and how that's assisting you, and where's it showing up for you today?
Right. So originally I came into it as a ASU graduate in nursing. So I've been a nurse for decades and enjoyed that process. It's been fantastic. But I definitely wanted to see at this juncture of opportunity, let me explore a little bit. So I took on this season of exploration and just had a really open mind that nursing would be great, but it doesn't have to stay in nursing. And so every week that we had instructors come along, I really wanted to dig in a deep dive and just learn all about the coursework, but the individuals, the other guest speakers. And so along that path, I recognized, there's a big overlap here. I don't think I had the self-confidence until Laura came along. But I had been exposed to so much of the tech side, right? In electronic medical records that have been going on really for decades. That's a daily process that nursing staff interact with. Of course, looking to the future, I think nurses very much deserve the space to help influence what technology like the Internet of Things, the wearables, these watches and other opportunities to monitor biometrics. I think, luckily, I had already been doing interviews for telehealth in my daily work life. So I had more technical skills than I had been giving myself credit for. And then the business analyst program pointed out that role as a nurse could be the liaison to communicate the needs of the tech side to the leadership of whatever organization, as Laura was saying, to make change, to find that optimal state. And so, yeah, I think there's cross application in really essentially any industry. Don't you think, Rob?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the business analyst, as you both mentioned, is so important, not only to, the strictly business applications of it, but the tools that you discover in that field can be used in engineering, in technology. I mean, it really is very widespread.
I'm curious. Oh, Laura, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to pop in a little bit here. Paloma, if you don't mind, she has a great story. Paloma works a lot with the food bank on the base, and she was introducing a new option there. And if you could just share.
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Yes.
So yes, that was the nursing side of technology. But in my nonprofit work, the food bank on Luke Air Force Base is in an expansion phase. And so we have 4 small shelves that are feeding about 40 to 60 families a month. But through generous donors, we've got a little bigger pot of money to play with and a dedicated building to rehab, to renovate. And so I recognized, thanks to AZ Next, that this was an opportunity to engage stakeholders, to capture all kinds of opinions and needs and elicit these requirements out of all the people who have a stake in this food bank, from clients on up to executive level, from different food organizations that were going to donate to us. So the concept really broadened my mind, but gave me the tools of the vocabulary, how to name it, how to achieve these relationships with the different stakeholders. So ideally, that's the person to person, but I'm also on the search for what type of software are we going to use that's going to capture our operations so that we have data that turns around and makes impact statements that come back to us in the form of ongoing grants, right? So if we do this good to great at the beginning, I think it's going to pay dividends for that community, which is very needy, frankly. There's a big need, and we want to improve that.
Am I right in thinking that when students come to you and they're ready to learn and they're participating, just based on Paloma's story, how often do you find that you're really kind of connecting those dots for them? You've kind of described that, you've been influenced by the instruction and the way the program. Are you asking questions? I would imagine so. But I'm also thinking you are listening as guides, and so are your instructors, and you're saying, have you thought about this, this, and this? And then
right,
it becomes expansive.
Absolutely. All of our courses are very much in flux all of the time. And one of the things that we always try to do is we try to listen to our participants, get feedback from them on how was the experience, what can we do to make it better? And then we modify the course based on that. But one of the things that we really try to focus on is that when you join AZ Next, you become a member of the AZ Next family. So we want to make sure that, you have all the tools that you need to, either go out and start a new career or, go to the next level in your current career. So we do work closely with the students. We do ask them, the questions about what else can we do to help you? What are your interests? How can we improve the overall experience? So yes, very much so.
Yeah. And have you thought about, I would imagine that that's probably a conversation that you can see from the perspective that you've had career-wise and influence-wise as people come through this program, the last 4 years already? Is that what you said?
2 years.
2 years. 2
Mhm.
years for cohorts, right?
For
Mhm.
cohorts.
Okay. That when folks come, that you can see a path that's laying out for them. It may not be the path they choose, but at least you can say, "Have you thought about XYZ?" and hand them that that guidance. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, and we learn from every cohort. So
It sounds like it, and that's critical, isn't it? Right?
Mhm.
That's just all part of. I know where the two of you spend a lot of your professional time is in process improvement and
Mhm.
making sure that people are able to give you feedback. I love that you're dipping your toe in the nonprofit world, staying as an advocate for military and military family. Have you then been somebody that has been sharing and singing the praises for AZ Next as it relates back to military families? How do you see where AZ Next can continue to help our military?
Wow. So if I have a passion, I have to sort of shamelessly plug the Military Spouse Professional Network. That's so I lead this group of about 650 spouses out of really the Phoenix metro area, right? So Luke Air Force Base is just the title of it.
Yeah.
So wow, I'm not sure anyone in the country really, if they understood. A 20 to 30% unemployment rate in a particular group. I just don't think we would tolerate that. And that's pretty much been the standard for a good, well, since it's been tracked, which is about 12 years. And it's nearly intransigent. It has hardly budged. Efforts are very successful for the veteran community. So the service member that has separated, and maybe they need some adjustment in translating their transferable skills onto a resume, whatever. But the spouse community, it's a far more complicated process. We can't necessarily claim the same experience, continuous experience in the workforce. So AZ Next has a huge benefit to people who, well, one, in my case, need the connection to people to say, you do have value.
Yeah.
There is a confidence there. You have a contribution to give that is meaningful. And then her introductions into the greater community built my personal network. And so it just expands exponentially, right? This network amongst ourselves. And so as I lead the group, I have access to social media that allows me to amplify the AZ Next message. So whenever events come up, when there's deadlines, applications, absolutely. those 650 spouses now, we have great metrics. Where even just this week, I was able to confirm that there's 500 active members out of that group, and 300 of them view daily posts. So yeah, I think we've got some good traction. People are hearing it. People
Listen
are
to
reading
that
it.
business analyst in there, baked
You
right
know,
in there.
I want to also give a shout out to the Arizona Coalition
Right.
of Military Families, which is the organization that connected Paloma to us. They are one of our closest partners, and one of the great, I'd say the greatest thing about that organization is that they do work with the whole family.
Mhm.
It's not just the transitioning veteran,
Mhm.
it's their spouse, it's their children. And as Paloma pointed out, there's a definite need there. And we've had some really good success of spouses coming from that organization in our courses.
So good. While we have the attention on you, can you share a little bit more this time around, because I know we talked about it last time, about the benefits that companies receive in utilizing AZ Next?
Well, again, because we're a grant-funded program, we're the number one benefit, obviously, is cost savings. We can use our grant funds to design our programs, to hire instructors to teach them, or in Laura's case, to volunteer. Thank you, Laura. Um, but we also find that, our type of program is how you build your own talent rather than have to go out and buy it. We can custom design a program for a company that is looking for a specific skill set and even customize it down to that company's particular corporate needs. So we can put that program together. What we found is that people who go through programs like this are going to be much more loyal to that company. It's fantastic for the trainees because they get a chance to try out the company, and the company gets a chance to try out the trainee. So it really is a win-win situation. And again, we found that the people who go through these programs, again, turn out to be much more loyal to the company. They don't move around as much. They're most definitely, the feedback that we get from our companies is that these people are much quicker in the uptake as far as being ready and prepared to do the job faster. And again, we can do all this at a lower cost.
Mm-hmm. If somebody is interested, I don't want to wait till the end of the show, but we'll ask it again. If there is a leader in a company that's interested in learning more, do they just reach out to the website or reach out to you? What makes most
They
most
can
sense?
reach us on our website, which is www.aznext.pipelineaz.com, or they can send an email directly to us at aznext@asu.edu.
Very good. I love it. Tell us more about why you continue to come back. That's year 2, I think, right? Because you were obviously already an instructor when Paloma came through with the first cohort. What is so special about this for you? And then help us better understand Paradigm Solutions and what you're doing.
So what's so special about this is the diversity of the students, I guess beneficiaries, as Paloma
Yeah, I love
put
that.
it. That's a great term. Just the diversity of it and the questions that are asked. The diversity is such a, I'm gonna use a cliche, hot topic right now. It is at everywhere that we go, in every webinar, any symposium. I just want to share a personal story on why I keep coming back to AZ Next and kind of an energy lifting thing that I just went through. I have been in IT for 30 plus years, a mind-numbing number of years, and my entire career has always been heads down, headbutting, just always the only female in the room, very difficult, always striving to prove yourself. And I kind of empathize a lot with some of these students that come in because they're coming in with adverse situations and they're trying to find some self-motivation, something to rise them. So last week, I was privileged enough to be at a summit for chapter leaders, nationwide summit, and I have to brag a little bit. I was nominated as chapter leader of the year award.
Wow.
Thank you. And so
chapter for what? I'm sorry.
So representing Arizona, but it was a nationwide honor.
What is the group though?
Society for Information Management.
Well, that's pretty big.
Pretty big deal.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was
Thank you
really
for
exciting.
sharing.
Yes. And it was a one-day summit, and then it was immediately followed by the SIM Women Leadership Summit. And I was telling them the story. And I remember walking in the door the night of the welcoming event and immediately feeling this sense of warmth around me. It was overwhelming. It was about half men and half women, but it was all people that you've seen on Zoom calls. Right? Finally, we're together. We're all in the same room, finally, right? And then the Tuesday, it was the women leadership. That day, it hit me. How hard this has been for me, how overwhelmingly oppressive the universe has been in the IT for women. And it felt like the weight of the world just lifted off my shoulder and I could see things clearly. And I was surrounded by a room of women just like me. And I appreciated the warmth and the nurturing that was in that group. So it simultaneously made me angry that I had to put up with what I put up with the last 30 years. But it also gave me the energy to move forward and to give back more. So in that feeling that I had that day and sometimes falling into imposter syndrome and all of that, it's a strong empathy to the candidates in AZ Next, because a lot of them have hit, they don't know where they want to go. They've hit walls along the way. They don't know where that nurturing is going to come from. They need just a little bit of for encouragement to get them in that right direction. And I felt that full steam last Tuesday, and it just provided me just an an extra empathy for what they already had. I just wanted to share that story because it just drove me to be more fierce in supporting women in IT and supporting the diversity there.
I can't help but think that's why you've been through that
All
experience
of-
all these years, because that's how you now show up, right? As you're a mentor and a guide and a
Mhm.
coach and a consultant and all the things that you do, you have been able to let somebody, take a look behind the curtain and say, I've been here or I've been somewhere similar, and you've got this, right?
Yes, it just struck me in such a different frame of mind, I guess,
Yeah.
that day.
Well, congratulations.
Well, yeah, it was a wonderful experience. It was great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start Sim Women here in the Valley. I'm very excited about that.
So there isn't a group here yet.
It's not a Sim Women. No.
Now there is.
Now there
Yeah.
is.
All right. And for our listeners who would want to get involved in that, do they reach out to you directly?
Absolutely. Please feel free to do so. Our introductory sessions will begin third quarter, and we're going to open it up to all that would like to attend. Sim Women National invites both men and women, so you don't have to be a Sim member to be able to reach out on our first couple of meetings. We'll recruit you later for that. So just reach out to me. Probably LinkedIn is the best way. Laura Hemingway, Hemenway, and I'll have my Calendly updated here shortly, and feel free to schedule some time.
I love it. You spoke a little bit about IT and diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit, and I would love for all three of you to chime in about some of the shifts that are taking place as we're more aware of how we want to become more inclusive and offer opportunities for everybody to have an opportunity in the workforce. What are you seeing, and how can we as business owners continue to support moving in that direction? I mean, we're talking veterans, we're talking
Mm-hmm.
disabled, we're the underprivileged communities, whatever it is, we know that we have to make sure that we're creating opportunities like this to provide people with opportunities for development.
So the research is now coming to fruition. We had pre-COVID, and then during COVID with the Great Resignation, now people starting to come out of it.
Mhm.
And so all of the studies are starting to actually be able to provide accurate information on what it's like to have diversity or women in your leadership.
Mhm.
A Harvard Business Review did a study on the VC venture capitalists, and if you had just increased your female leaders by 10%, it also directly related to a 10% increase in revenues. McKinsey showed that if you increased your leadership and your females in your leadership, that it brought in 20% more revenue than your peers. So all of those studies are really showing this information to provide just real business dollars and real business value to that. So something that you might have kind of slept off to the side or ignored or whatever are now showing hard numbers and hard values and benefits back to organizations. So people are paying attention.
We've needed it. Yeah, Rob.
I just want to relate a story kind of related to what Laura just said. We've been working very hard recently on putting together a technology summit to talk about AZ Next and the programs that we can provide to all the IT companies out there. It's been fantastic. We've been working with Steve at the AZ Tech Council to put all this together. He put out some fantastic marketing material. It's coming up in June. And we were just really excited and happy that this was all happening. And I got a text last Friday from Laura.
Mhm.
She says, Rob, this looks like a great opportunity, but there's an issue. And it's like, have you noticed something similar about who's on the panel?
Good girl. I knew where you were going.
And I have to tell you, I thought, you know what, Laura, you are absolutely right.
Mhm.
And I just think that reinforces the fact that we need to be vigilant all the time, that we don't fall into these traps. I mean, it wasn't conscious.
Yeah.
We were just working really hard to try to get this thing to happen, and we missed it.
Mhm.
And so we're taking some steps now to see if we can correct that a little bit,
Mhm.
get some women on the panel. And so I think it's important that we just maintain that vigilance and we don't slip into these traps
Yep.
that it's so easy to do.
The unconscious bias.
Yes.
It's so prevalent, but that's how we got the boomers to the Gen Zs, all these different ages, all growing up with different levels of diversity and acceptance into our peers. But everyone still falls into this unconscious bias, and you have to really, I'm in organizations right now. I'm still the only female. Another follow-up story. Sorry. And these men are just looking at me. I'll go, she just shut up already. But it was really interesting in that women's summit that I was just talking about. One of my male colleagues was in the room and he started listening to all these stories. And he said, I cannot believe what I'm hearing. He said, I used to think it was just all kind of just whining or whatever. And he said, and he actually said, men can be real jerks sometimes. And that's a quote.
Yeah.
And I know that's really candid and straightforward. And I just had to laugh. And I said, yes, at times that is correct. But I thought it was just kind of funny that a man said that about himself.
Well, it goes back to what Rob was saying, just being self-aware and professionally aware to move the needle on the dial. If we just leave it to how things are always done, we're not going to change. And what I love so much about the story that you shared is the camaraderie and the relationship that you two have built through this opportunity to work together through AZ Next meant that you felt safe and comfortable. And even if you didn't, I know you would do it anyway, but to reach out to Rob and say, look, hey, let me help you see this through the lens I'm seeing this through, because I won't be the only one. And thank goodness, Rob, you're like, oh my gosh, receptive. And I know Steve Zelstra is the same. We've had many conversations around this and how can we close the gap, widen the opportunities, and create a new narrative for how we work together. Anything to add to the conversation? I'm surely thinking you do.
If you'll allow me stepping a little outside the box.
Please.
So I think we've established it's just an imperative that this be affordable, that the access to these programs be really on a short-term basis and be affordable. But if you're open, I think perhaps a child care voucher would make a fantastic difference to women in particular who find themselves interested and, maybe one hand tied behind their back in their efforts to really show up fully into this kind of coursework.
And Paloma, that is available through AZ Next.
It is.
Yes.
We need to amplify that message.
Yeah, and count on it being done. Link arms and let's go. That's fantastic. See, look.
Yeah. I mean, having raised two sons, I wasn't familiar with that. And so that's a disservice, right? We just need to be better aware and communicate it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of which direction I want to go. I would like to go back to Laura if I can. Chat GPT. Seems like a random conversation, but I see it in my notes here. So,
yes.
and AI specifically, what are you noticing that the impact this has? Did we cover that? I don't think we really covered that on our segment, did we?
We talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So the universe of AI is changing so quickly that no matter what I say at this moment in time, in an hour, it'll be obsolete. In a study, just in the last 6 months, over 1,200 new AI offerings have been put out there. So it's incredible.
It's not going away.
It's not going away, but nor is it the panacea that everyone is making it. There's a lot of I guess mistrust or just maybe discomfort with the fact that taking advantage of these tools will replace some people's jobs. And in some very direct manners, maybe it's true. So let's say you're a developer. But your job is to be creative and you're a problem solver. So you're trying to say, okay, here's the requirements that are given to me. Here's our business goal. So how am I going to code this? How am I going to make this happen? So what it does do is it enables them to be more of that critical thinker, the strategic thinker, and allow these tools to actually maybe do the more direct type of task of that. But it doesn't replace the person. It doesn't replace that critical thinking. I'll take the AZ Next Business Analyst course as an example. I ran through an example of a process that I improved for a Fortune 10 program, a company that was getting ready for an IPO. And I said, okay, what's it going to come back with? What's it going to tell me? And it was actually pretty good about saying, okay, here's what the future state needs to be like. Here's what your key performance indicators should be. Here's how improvers could be put in the path. Well, that's something I knew very innately by all the years that I have been doing this. But it was pretty interesting that it was able to give that back to me. But by no means is that ChatGPT going to be the empathetic change agent that's necessary to make sure that this comes to fruition in the company. You need people to gather your stakeholders, to gather the president from the truck driver, the warehouse, everybody that's involved, and get them involved and get them to buy in and get them to feel part of the solution. If you were just to throw out that solution to them, that's where you're going to watch a mass exodus from your company, because people won't deal with change that way. They need to feel like they're part of it. So that human factor of being critical thinking and that empathy for being that change agent, ChatGPT is not going to take that role.
It goes back to those soft skills again, the
Exactly.
interpersonal and intrapersonal skills.
Yeah, it goes back to that. So, but there's some great value. It's a lot of fun to play with.
It is.
And
it's fascinating.
Yes, and there's some great skills there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic tool.
Yes, that's what it is.
If you look at it that way, then it's not so scary. And I know for a fact, I've actually been using ChatGPT for some writing skill or writing exercises that I've been going through, and it's a great way to get things started. But I certainly wouldn't turn in exactly what it says, But it's a fantastic tool to get you rolling. Saying, okay, yeah, we change this around a little bit. It's great.
It could be a great time saver.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, one other thing that I wanted to mention is that in a lot of our classes, when I've been listening in on them, that question has been coming up a lot lately from students saying, "Hey, why am I bothering with this training? Because AI is going to take over." And to 100%, the lecturers, which are typically our industry executives, are saying the exact same thing. This is a tool, nothing more. It's just a new tool that we can use to help make our professional lives better. It's not going to be replacing people, at least not yet.
Yeah.
Healthcare certainly has opportunities for it, and it can make a physician or a nurse far more efficient in the moment. But hopefully we engage with some policy that makes that safe, and there's real humans evaluating that record before it advances.
Yeah,
I know. So ASU had an AI/ML conference specific to medical devices about 2 weeks ago. So I sat through that and came to find out that AI has developed to the point that it even invents its own studies, which are being referenced as legitimate data. And so an investigator, a clinician, a scientist needs to look into, okay, is this a real event, or did AI just know the format of what a really great citation looks like, and it just injected its own results into the database, right?
Yeah.
So there's significant oversight that needs to be monitored closely. There's big consequences in healthcare.
Oversight, ethics, privacy issues, all
huge
abound
privacy.
there.
Yeah.
Fascinating. We have a little bit of time left, so I want to make sure we hear from each of you kind of what's next. And I think, Rob, it would be great to start with you. What is the future for AZ Next? And again, how can we best support the program and or get more people involved?
What's next for AZ Next? Let me start off by, it's been about a little over a year since the last time Laura and I were on the program. At that point in time, we had just launched our first cohort business analysis, which Paloma was part of. Since that time, we have now over a dozen training programs that range anywhere from a 2-day boot camp to a 2-year apprenticeship. We have 1,261 participants who've enrolled. And so we feel we're just hitting our stride right now. Our grant period is 4 years. So we're actually in the third year now. We do have the option of extending that an additional year, but it is ASU and our full intention to make this a permanent program. So we are working with other organizations, other grants to partner with them so that we can gain more of those grant dollars. We're also looking to make our programs so value added that our corporate partners will continue to sponsor us beyond the grant period. So we are looking forward to AZ Next becoming a permanent addition to ASU and look forward to training lots more people in the future.
And you are the right guy for the job. I know that. Can you just speak a little bit about your background? I know we've shared it on the previous episodes, but for those who are listening today for the first time, how did you land here?
I have over 20 years of experience in the aerospace manufacturing realm. I did everything from program and project management, customer management, process development. After I finished my corporate career, I decided that I wanted to do something that gave back a little bit. It just so happened to line up that a AZ Next opportunity came up at ASU, and ASU was most definitely one of the targets that I wanted to go to after finishing my aerospace career. And everything lined up. Stars were perfectly aligned. I had the skills that they needed, and was able to get into ASU a little over 2 years ago now. And believe me, it's been a huge shock going from the corporate world to the academic world, but I'm starting to figure it out a little bit now. And again, looking forward to working with this program for many years to come.
So good. And I don't know that I've ever asked this before. Is this, to your knowledge, the first of its kind in the country, or do we have some similar programs?
There's lots of actual workforce development programs out there. This would be the first Department of Labor grant funded program, at least in Arizona, that I'm aware of. But again, it's one of the things that I've learned is that the workforce development area is vast. There's a lot of people out there doing a lot of different things. Kind of as what we discussed a couple of weeks ago with the folks from Western Arizona College and the Tucson. Now I can't remember, but Tucson Tech Institute. But no, workforce development is important. People are, I know I have this somewhere. I heard this the other day. This is what I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
17, they did a survey and only 17% of high school graduates in the state of Arizona plan to go on to post-secondary college.
What percentage?
17. That is not going to be enough for all the high-tech jobs that we've got coming to the valley, or to the valley, to the state, to the region. We need these workforce development programs, all of them, because with all of the industry that's coming to Arizona right now, there are going to be tons of jobs out there. They're all going to need to have training in these skills areas. And we need these types of programs.
Is it cost prohibitive? Is that why that number is the way it is? I mean, the 4-year degree?
I think, yeah. I mean,
Laura's chomping at the bit there.
They didn't really go into a lot of details from what I heard, but it's got to be, the cost involved in a 4-year college degree has obviously gone way high in the last few years. But I think a lot of kids coming out of high school are really just not thinking that it's going to be worth it to them to invest that amount of time and money. And so they're looking for other options.
And the options are more readily available than ever before, it seems. Yeah.
And we need to break the paradigm. I mean, you don't need to have a college degree to do all of these positions.
Yeah.
So that's why programs like AZ Next are around, to get people skilled up in these high-tech areas so that we can get them into these jobs and improve our overall communities.
Yeah. And I would love to give a shout out to that last episode we did with AZ Tech Council on their AZ Tech Cast show. if you're listening and you're curious about, again, the way that the state is working, when I say the state, Arizona, our private sector, our public sector, our educational institutes, as well as our legislatures, we're all coming together, really with great thanks to Steve Zelstra and the Arizona Tech Council and Arizona Commerce Authority, to make sure we're providing enough opportunities for workforce development so we can continue to be a force to be reckoned with. So go listen to that episode when Rob is there with a couple of the other guests talking about this very conversation. Remind me too, if you would, Rob, how old do you have to be to participate? What's the minimum age for AZ Next?
The only requirements to participate in AZ Next is that you be 17 years of age or older and have a high school degree or diploma or GED.
Very good. Wonderful. Something that you want to add about that last little conversation we had around, high school kiddos moving into being ready and available for the workforce?
Well, I think it's a general overall statement about the state of education in the state of Arizona in general. I mean, we all know that we are at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to our education systems in the United States. And the United States is not stellar when it comes to comparing it to the world. So I think we have a lot of work here to do in Arizona, and it starts in kindergarten, pre-K, and getting these kids involved in STEM and STEAM activities and getting that energy level going. As you know, I work with fourth graders and their and STEAM initiatives, and just getting that enthusiasm going and keeping it going all the way through high school so that they are aware of all these different types of programs and that they're inspired to move forward with some initiative, some sort of training to get them to the next step. It starts very young, and we need to do a better job.
Yep. Constantly starting from the very early ages, getting them interested in just things beyond their laptop and their phone. They're getting those much earlier. So how do you make that phone work? And what is all that that makes it a big difference? And instead of there's a term, being a creator versus someone who is just taking advantage of the technology, right? I try to do that with my 15-year-old. Yeah. Instead of just using the technology, you have to spend more time on your devices that you're in creation mode versus just using and consuming mode. And that, again, that doesn't go over very well sometimes. Right. And yet it's driven him to be excited about the possibility of an engineering degree when he leaves high school, because now he sees, I'm just not going to be the one who consumes. I can have a say in how to make these things work and how they can develop.
But even making that available to some of these children, we saw this particularly during COVID, these are children that are completely underserved in every area. They do not have income level to support internet access at their home. So just trying to give these children internet access to attend their classes during the COVID was indeed a challenge. So that's at basic level. So getting the technology in their hands to get that curiosity is part of the struggle as well. So,
yeah. Before we close out, I would love for you to just kind of give a shout out to Paradigm Solutions and the kinds of companies and individuals you work with, and so that when people are listening, that they'll have an opportunity to reach out to you when they're a good fit or they know somebody who is.
Well, thank you, Karen. Yes, Paradigm Solutions is a consultancy and technology offering fractional and interim CIO support, as well as leadership in large initiatives. I work everywhere from $1 million companies to Fortune 10 in large scale initiatives. So that's my passion. That's my fun. I love shaking things up and bringing value to the organization. And as my saying goes, the technology, as we've been talking about, is just a tool. We just need to make, and it will do exactly what you tell it to do. And our job is just to make sure we tell it the right story.
I've never heard you say that before. I love that.
Well said.
Very well said. Beautifully said. And it speaks to your characteristics and just your distinguished personality and how you do things the way that you do it. Speak a little bit more to that. If someone, again, we're looking forward to working with you and making a difference in their organization, what's unique about Paradigm Solutions and you specifically? You've already spoken a lot about that, just again, the career that you've had and the way in which you've shown up and the challenges that you've been faced with. What else would you add to that?
Well, I think some of you know I started off in special education. And so
I don't know that I remember that.
My dream was to get my doctorate and build my old school before there was even a thing called a charter school. So that's kind of the foundation. And I quickly got just enchanted with the school systems, and I went into technology, which is where all the tests told me I should go. But I love the technology. To me, the technology is very straightforward. Like I said, just tell the right story. To me, it's about the people and the processes. People, processes, technology, in that order. And so someone like me just brings that empathy with the 30 plus years experience and being able to bring those kinds of corporate goals to fruition. As far as my energy, obviously I think that's just part of my DNA. And I challenge all organizations or companies out there to give back. We all have time where we can volunteer to speak at AZ Next or any organization. Take that time for an extra phone call and be a mentor, or just to give a little bump for enthusiasm. You never know where that word or that sentence might have impact to someone. So give back, take the time.
And to go back to our conversation around being inclusive and diverse, it helps broaden our neighborhood, so to speak. It helps us get a better feel for what's happening outside of our own back door when we volunteer and we show up in that way for our community. Excellent. Paloma, what's next for you? What are you doing these days, and how can we continue to support our military families?
Right. So really, because of AZ Next, I said this was my exploratory year or two. I recognized that I still had some skills in the academic world, and I started a master's in public leadership program, which actually the business analyst support really exposed me to the learning technology platforms. And so I went in with the advantage of all my cohorts. I already understood the Canvas system that they had introduced me to. So that made it a lot more comfortable transition. So I graduate in December of this year. And really the intent is to marry my nursing background, which even on these conversations of workforce development and economic development, IT, all of these areas in my mind, I view it through the lens of nursing, because they're all contributing to the social determinants of health, right? So if we can line these things up on a policy level, on a public, for example, state, legislative, county, all kinds of opportunities for perhaps a nurse to engage in that process. Actually, the purpose is for optimal wellness, that we all live with that opportunity to live the American dream and make ourselves as healthy a community as possible.
I can get behind that. Yeah, that's beautifully said.
Thank you.
And tell us again the organization that you are a champion for as it relates to military families.
Sure. So Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Professional Network.
And how do we stay in touch with them?
So we can be found, I can be found on LinkedIn. I'll always follow up that way. But on a broader scale, Facebook hosts our private group. Luke at hiringourheroes.org is the email address. And there's a whole lot of letters will get you to Facebook, right? So Luke, AFB -HOH MSPN. There are 4 questions that must be answered that you're willing to be polite, mostly, if you join.
As most Facebook groups are asking you to do.
Yeah. And so if you can get through those 4 questions, you get access immediately.
Good. And I see that you did provide that for us in our show notes. So we will have that hyperlink there for you as well. Very good. Anything else that I didn't think to ask you that you wanted to share around your experience with AZ Next, or even just, shout out to some of the folks that you're supporting?
Yeah. So I've already sort of thought through my graduation because it's keeping me motivated. And I just want to say out loud that there's so much of that these last 2 years that I'm carrying Laura with me through the process, and I want to make her proud. And I just want to express my gratitude for giving me a place to go with my concerns and my thoughts and my goofiness that she appreciates and helps me to refocus and keep moving forward.
Thank you.
Incredible.
And if I could add to that, I also want to thank Laura for her tireless volunteer work that she does with AZ Next. You make the program better. Thank you.
Aww.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. It's my pleasure. It's you nurture me, you give back to me. So I think it's a very symbiotic relationship here.
For sure. And yet, you have a gift and you are sharing it in a beautiful way. And it doesn't come without some of the pains of the past when you're looking at some of the trials that you've had to go through. I know you and I have talked a little bit about that just from our own professional and personal perspective. And so thank you for showing up the way that you do, because it clearly makes a powerful impact and difference. And we need people like you. Paloma is on LinkedIn. Paloma Greenwald, WALD at the end of the word green. So we'll look forward to connecting with you there. And again, the facebook.com group is groups MSPN Luke. Does that sound right for the Facebook group? Can they find it that way?
They can.
I know you did it differently, but this might be easier. M as in monkey, SPN as in Nancy. I know that I make up my own stuff. And Luke, and then we'll make sure that we have it hyperlinked as well. Thank you for taking time to be with us today.
It's an honor.
I'm sure your husband and boys and your extended family and friends are very proud of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And how do we stay in touch with Laura?
The best way is on LinkedIn. You could reach me there and feel free to message out to me. Or like I said, book time on my calendar. Again, Laura Hemingway, HEM as in Mary, EN as in Nancy, WAY. And I wish I was related to Ernest, but sadly, no.
Sadly, I am not. And is there anything else I hadn't thought to ask that you kind of came prepared to share today?
No, I just wanted to reinforce organizations to really think about the diversity within their organization and how welcoming an environment that is to everyone, and also to shout out to my colleagues to challenge them to take that extra step and make sure and reach out and support.
Love it. Rob, aznext.pipelineaz.com.
Correct.
Excellent. And I know you're on LinkedIn.
I am on LinkedIn, and you can also reach me at rob.below, BUELOW, at asu.edu.
Very good. Anything that I hadn't thought to ask you that you want to make sure that we cover today?
I don't think so, other than just to echo what Laura had to say, that we very much appreciate our corporate partners working with us on these programs. And if anybody else out there is interested, please please contact me. We're happy to talk to you at any time.
Yeah, it's just a conversation. Let's explore it together. Very good. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us on Phoenix Business RadioX today. We greatly appreciate your time. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean workforce development. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.